Okay, so this is going to be a little lo-fi moment to start off the video, but I missed the 1 year anniversary of my channel. I've been kind of unwell this past week. Nothing too serious, don't worry. I just kind of want to say thank you guys for 1 year. As I'm filming this, the last data was out on September 5th, 3,027 subs. This time last year, on September 5th, I had 16 subs. So that's amazing, and I love you guys. Thank you so much. Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to be going over the history and geography of Maldives. As you can see, Maldives is a very tiny little archipelago here. For whatever reason, the camera doesn't like my right hand. It tries to autofocus when it's there, so I'm trying to just use my left hand for the most part. But anyway, the Maldives is in the Indian Ocean in an area known as the Laccadive Sea. You can see right here is the equator at 0 degrees. And one thing I think is really interesting about the Maldives are some of their channels. Like, this is the equatorial channel because it's on the equator. Here's the 1.5 degree channel and the 8 degree channel. The geography nerd in me likes that. It's very pleasing. But let me show you over here where it actually is in the Indian Ocean. This, as you can see, is India over here. And there's the 8 degree channel. And there's the Maldives down here. So kind of just off to the side of southern India. Over here is Sri Lanka. And yeah, that's where it's located. The Maldives mostly just consists of many different coral islands made up of lots of atolls. So there are 1,192 coral islands with 26 total atolls. So an atoll, if you don't know, is a ring of coral with like a big lagoon in the middle. It's not the best place to build a permanent home, so only 185 of the islands are inhabited. Almost everyone, almost the entire population, I should say, lives in the capital city and island of Mali, right there, the Mali Atoll. The largest island, though, is Gan, right down here, which shows you really what a terrible kind of map this is, because, like I said, this is the largest island in the Maldives. It's part of the Adu Atoll. So after I go over history, I'll get my tablet and I'll show you some gorgeous pictures of the Maldives, because in my opinion, the Maldives, tied with Seychelles, is like the most beautiful country in the world. It is stunningly gorgeous. The Maldives is really synonymous with like honeymoons and luxury resort vacations. Most of the islands have become tourist islands with luxury little like ocean huts and bungalows like that, which is like 5-star, super luxury, super expensive. Yeah, it's one of those where you go on vacation if you've saved up a lot of money to do so. And also, interestingly, before we go into history, the Maldives is the lowest country in the world. I think the highest point was only 2 meters, and it's just like a sand dune on the beach. So it's very, very flat. It's just coral, basically, and a few rocky islands. It's part of, it's known as the Chagos Laccadive Ridge that goes up along the coast of India. Also on that ridge down here is the Chagos Archipelago, which we talked about when I covered Mauritius. And also just to the north of it is this island group called Lakshadweep, which is part of India. It used to be part of the Maldives, but I believe it was when India declared its independence that these islands decided to join India. So let's get into its history before I show you some beautiful pictures. The first settlers probably came from India or possibly Sri Lanka sometime between 500 and 230 BCE. They were known as the Dehavi people, and a lot of the islands in the Maldives are still inhabited by Dehavi people. But anyway, the early culture did not leave anything behind archaeologically. They most likely built homes out of like wood and palm leaves and things like that don't survive. They didn't build any stone structures or anything that could last for archaeologists to find. The earliest like structures that have been unearthed came from the 3rd century BCE, when Buddhism arrived to the islands, most likely from Emperor Ashoka when he was going through his kingdom, converting everyone to Buddhism. There's lots and lots of temples and statues and stupas, stuff like that, built all throughout the islands here. They really loved their Buddhism until they didn't. A lot of Arab traders stopped here in the Maldives as they were going to like India and China and everything. And wherever there are Arab traders, they bring Islam with them. So the king of the islands converted to Islam in 1153 or possibly 1193 and became a sultan and started the sultanate that would last for a long, long time in the Maldives. And Islam swept through the islands. It was very popular. And they destroyed a lot of the Buddhist temples and statues and stupas. So like what we found for archaeological purposes are destroyed temples and statues and stupas. It's believed that the most major Buddhist temples had mosques built over them, so that ancient culture is lost. But the Maldivians are extremely proud of their religion. Actually, it's illegal to not be a Sunni Muslim in the Maldives if you're a citizen. So you can come visit, but you cannot move there unless you're a Sunni Muslim. It's literally the law. Also really interesting, just a side note, Ibn Battuta visited the Maldives. If you don't know who that is, he's basically the Islamic equivalent of Marco Polo, where he traveled all throughout Africa and Asia and documented the people that he met. And he stayed in the Maldives from 1341 to 1345. It's just super cool. The islands, up until the Europeans came, were a major part of Arab trade, mainly because cowrie shells were used as currency in a lot of countries, particularly in Africa. And the Maldives had tons of cowrie shells on their beaches, so it became a good place to come over and get some cowrie shells and trade for them. Also, they made, they used the coconut hair to make a waterproof binding or netting for boats. Ibn Battuta wrote down that it was stronger than hemp and it's waterproof, and it was great. So that was also a big thing that was traded here. Anyway, the Portuguese arrived in 1558. They established a trading post, but they attempted to convert the Maldivians to Christianity, and they were driven out of the country. It's actually that day is considered their national day now. They're very proud of that. In the 17th century, the Dutch claimed what is now Sri Lanka. It was known as Ceylon. I talked about it more in my History of Sri Lanka video. But eventually the British expelled the Dutch from Ceylon in 1796. So the Dutch had laid claims to the Maldives when they took over Ceylon. So now that the British were in charge, they basically took over the Maldives. Not forcefully take over, but they claimed jurisdiction over the Maldives. And by 1887, the British and the Sultan decided to make the Maldives a British protectorate, which meant that Britain didn't control it, but they had a say in government. And if the Maldives needed military protection or they had some kind of economic crisis, that Britain would come and help them. So Britain started to really heavily encourage a constitutional monarchy in the Maldives, mainly so that they could have more political control. They eventually helped the Maldives make a constitution in 1932, which heavily granted power to the British Governor General and his men. The Maldivians did not like this, and there was a riot, and they tore up the constitution in the streets. However, the Sultanate wound up being briefly suspended in 1953. I think it was, okay, so side note, every leader after this point, every president, every elected leader has been either kicked out of the country or thrown in prison. So it's very hard. I keep getting them mixed up. So excuse me if I mix up something. So I believe what it was the next sultan in line decided to not be the sultan. He turned down the role. So the prime minister just stepped up and said, no more sultanate, we're a republic, and I'm the president. And his government was overthrown while he was out of the country. When he returned to try to take it back, he was beaten and killed by an angry mob in the streets. So then the sultanate was restored in 1954. Also, Britain had built a big airfield down here on Gan in the Adu Atoll, and they wanted to maintain it. It was a good position in the Indian Ocean. So they had offered the Maldives money in order to stay there for the next 99 years, I believe it was. The new government at that time, was it President Nasir? I get them all mixed up. They all had similar fates. Anyway, Nadir. Anyway, Nasir, something like that. I apologize. I'll probably leave a note. But he decided to tell Britain, how about you stay here for 30 years and you give us even more money? And the people down here in these little atolls weren't happy about that because they were really benefiting from the British airfield and the British in general being there. So they decided to separate from Maldives and form the United Suvedeve Republic, just so that they can maintain those ties with Britain and receive the benefits from that. Eventually, the president of the Maldives was very upset by this and came with gunboats down here to threaten them back. And when the people here asked for help from Britain, they didn't really get it, so they had to rejoin the Maldives. But anyway, on July 26, 1965, the Maldives became officially independent from Britain. They held a referendum to see if they should continue the Sultanate or become a full-time republic, and it was heavily voted to become a full-time republic. So that happened in 1968. The president at that time started to push the tourism industry, and the first resort started being built in the 1970s, and it really took off and has been taking off ever since. It honestly saved the Maldives. We'll find out why later. So in 1975, that president was arrested and exiled. He wound up fleeing the country with millions from the national treasury. The next president held on to power for 30-something years, mainly because the Maldives on paper was a one-party state, but not ran really like a one-party state. It was all democratic, but he would be the only one on the ballot, so it was kind of complicated. There was a huge coup in 1988 against him, where I believe it was Tamil fighters from Sri Lanka came to try to overthrow the government, and the Indian government came with their navy and paratroopers, and it was a big to-do out in the ocean as they tried to flee. But yeah, that happened. Eventually that president was ousted. What was it? He was arrested. The next president wound up resigning and being arrested. I'm getting ahead of myself. Before all that happened, the December 2004 tsunami happened, and it hit the Maldives very, very hard. Like I said, it is a flat country, so when the waves came, there was nothing to break them, and it basically washed over all the islands. 6 islands were completely destroyed. Many, many others were flooded. There was less than 5 or so that were spared or essentially untouched. It was really, really rough for the country, and it took them a long time to bounce back, especially since a lot of political turmoil happened. There was a new constitution in 2008, which allowed more democracy to happen in their republic. There were lots of protests, though, against government corruption. And there were some really bad ones in 2012 and 2014 where they started off peaceful and then police fired on them and it escalated into something major it didn't need to be. The 2012 one, the army actually mutinied and joined the protesters. It was a lot. That president was, he stepped down and then was arrested for corruption. What was it? He had tried to place a judge on trial and people weren't happy about that. And to this day, it's debated whether or not that judge was corrupt and needed to be removed, or if it was the president that was corrupt and needed to be removed. But that president was eventually sent to jail. His supporters said that he was sent to jail so that he couldn't run for re-election. Like the government wouldn't let him run for re-election. But he wound up winning the first round of the election in 2013. And the parliament just erased the data, they just canceled it and said to redo it since he couldn't be elected and people were mad and there were protests. It's like an ongoing cycle of that, of just people being mad at the government and the government just not doing what they want, and there's more protests. And there was actually a moment in 2015 where that president, the president at the time, was nearly assassinated. He was just coming back from his Hajj and he was on his boat in Mali, exiting the boat when it exploded. And everyone was fine, thankfully, but the vice president was blamed for it, for organizing it, and they had him arrested. There was a huge anti-government rally planned, and the president declared a state of emergency so that they couldn't hold the rally. It was so much. That president was eventually arrested in 2019 after he had left office. It's a whole to-do. But the current president was elected in 2018. His name's Ibrahim Mohammed Salih. And that's basically where we are in the history of the Maldives. It's a lot of turmoil, but there's honestly a bigger threat to the Maldives than just the political tension. The car outside's emphasizing it. Global warming is a thing, and the Maldives is a flat country, and it's estimated that the Maldives will not exist. It will be uninhabitable by the year 2100. So that's really the big issue for the Maldives. But if it wasn't for their tourism sector, who knows where this country could have been. It could have failed after all the political turmoil. Things like that happened. So let's take a look at the tablet and see the beautiful islands that make the tourism sector so successful in the Maldives. Alright, hope you don't mind my candle in the corner there. It smells good. But anyway, these are the Maldives Islands. I'll show you where it's located. There's India, Sri Lanka. It's right there. You can kind of even see the ridge here that it's part of. That's interesting. So let's zoom in real quick at some of these islands. Let's look at Mali. Is such an interesting little place. So here's the capital. As you can see, it's so densely populated. Look at this. That island is packed. Completely packed. Isn't that so cool? Get the boats in the water. Anyway, let's find, there's the airport. Can get to the airport from a bridge there. Let's find a resort. Let's see. This is really pretty. That's definitely a resort. Oh, here we go. Bungalows. So this is what I'm talking about. These are all luxury little vacation homes out on the water. They obviously get more and more lavish as you go out. Let's see if we can't look at some of them a little closer. see, let's go here and see what it looks like. I wonder if we'll be on the beach. Yeah, so huts out on the water, just being very beautiful, that water being crystal clear. And here's the beach. Little places to relax there. And it's just a lovely, beautiful day. Look at all the little huts. Doesn't that look luxurious? Let me boop that. And let's find another island with little bungalows on it. How about this one? No, that just looks like a regular island. Let's see. But you can see what I was saying when that you can't like just island hop here unless you have a boat. This big harbor here. Look at this long beach. It's beautiful. Oh, it's on the airport, that's why. Let's move a little further out. Right. These are also good examples of atolls. You can see how they're like little rings of coral with the center. Look at this island. Oh yeah, look at these. Look how gorgeous that must be to be out there. Oh, there's a big spot, but it's like for weddings and stuff. This big house. Little lookout points, I guess, scenic areas. Let's see if we can't visit these. We can go, oh, let's go inside. I wonder if it'll show us. Yep. Luxurious living. It's still blurry. There we go. And your gorgeous view out on the ocean. Let's see more like right here. And then we'll look at some actual like destinations and not just the little villas. Isn't that something? That is the place to go to relax for sure. Okay, so let's see some points of interest. Miru Island is the easternmost of the North Malay Atoll. Let's check it out. Miru Island. Oh, that's a lovely one too. There's the resort mosque. Oh wow, look at these bungalows. Let me just see real quick. They look long. Like usually when I picture like Maldivian bungalows, they're round like the ones I saw. I've never seen long ones like that. Some houses on the beach. I'm not letting it load, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Look at these. This is like the place to be. How gorgeous. Let's see some other points of interest. Atmosphere. Oh, I'm done looking at resorts. Let's see. Oh, the undersea restaurant. Okay, I lied. I want to see this. The undersea restaurant. That's interesting. I wonder how you get into there. Maybe like an elevator or something. Itha means mother of pearl in Dehavi, an undersea restaurant 5 meters below sea level. I want to see Malay. We were just looking at that. Malay is also, it's a reclaimed island. Oh, yes. We want to see this. I don't know if there's any pictures, but you see these are bioluminescent like organisms, and it's very rare to see if you're very lucky to see it. Sea of stars. I doubt that there's like a, yeah, look at that. Can you imagine going out on the beach and seeing that? so awesome. I doubt anyone's got a street view of it, but let's check it out anyway. Yeah, that's neat. I feel so relaxed looking at this. All right. All right. Let's see if I can't find it. Go back to Molly. Page element there. Oh, nice. Just looking around Molly. Republic Square, let's check that out. Republic Square. Oop. There we go. Oh, people enjoying the nice day, looks like. Lots of pigeons. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for tonight. All the boats, the shipyard, artificial beach. So yeah, that's going to be it for tonight, I think. Thank you so much for watching. What's the whale submarine? Oh, okay. Whatever. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a very